Hey, Gisladottir. Welcome to part two of my conversation with Mathieu Skulason and Iris Gisladottir. We are covering uncomfortable truths that every founder needs to know about fundraising, among other topics. So tune in, listen in, take notes, and learn from it. Enjoy. See you on the other side. How do you decide what to stay stone firm on and where you need to keep open? Especially as a leader, you have the vision in your head. And I feel that you need to be open how that vision comes into play or into life. But then are there any aspects that need to really stay firm?
So usually we have a vote. There are only occasionally where I will think that because of my background in, it's usually design related user interface or design aspects where I'll say, no, this makes no sense based on, and I'll usually find some data to support it. But most of the time we take it to a vote. I've been outvoted a couple of times and I just accept it, pick your battles. And then when we all kind of disagree or we can't really find consensus, the only thing left is try it.
Okay. And if you have several options to try?
Yeah, sometimes we do. And if we don't want to try all of them, we start picking people, we have a good relationship with the schools. So, then we start picking on the people that we really trust, that we've worked with.
What do you think about this?
And, in the end, somebody will see that there's a general direction and then we'll go from there. Just to know, you also, as the organization has matured, there are some areas of expertise where I'll know by now that Adnan, who interacts most with the sales process and gets a lot of the support calls, he will be able to tell me, he will sometimes just tell me, okay, no, this won't work. And I'm to the point where he's probably going to be right most of the time. I can point out some difficulty that we might have, but just listen to your experts too.
Mm-hmm. Also, our family and friends know that sometimes they'll get a very random question. Do you like A, B, or C? And we'll do this, like all of us, the whole team, send out to a bunch of people, which one do you like? And then we'll take, a decision a bit based on that too, because sometimes we just need more votes. But I think what Mathieu said earlier, and I think that also applies to what we were talking about, being a team. Knowing that you might sometimes win is very important, you have to, but then also because you might win at some point, that's when you're outvoted, it's just fine. This is just like, I was wrong in this, but I'm going to be writing something different. And I think that's very important to, when you really listen to your team and you just have that vote and then you just outnumbered, you just didn't put enough convincing facts behind it. Then you're like, okay, next time I'm going to have more convincing facts so that I can, get my votes,
What also happens is everybody starts owning parts of the product. They feel like they're part of the process. And I think we've also done very well in our product development is I often know exactly what I want to do and how I want to do it. But then I'll go to everyone. I'll ask Iris, like, am I thinking this through? Like, is there something that I'm missing? I'll ask Adrian as well. I'll get Siggy if that makes sense. Like, does this make sense? Do you think this will be better than what we already have? And if the general consensus is yes, or they have some pointers, then I'll go back to the drawing board, or we'll do it together, or we'll have a heated discussion, as we call it.
Or fight. But actually, there is a question that I've heard from Stephen Bartlett, the host of the Diary of CEO, said, sometimes I go to my team and ask, why is this a bad idea? So instead of like asking for the support for your idea, and everyone is like, yeah, this could work like this and so on, or saying like, tell me why this will fail, or say, why is this a bad idea? And that really turns the conversations around when you're inviting people to challenge your idea, because then you get a different perspective, and sometimes it can also help.
Yeah, we all have very strong opinions. Usually I just lead with, does this make sense? So it opens up, I think, for both directions. So it's also good to know the good and the bad. So we haven't focused too much on the negative aspects necessarily.
But I do think it's because all of us know that we are allowed to challenge. It's built in our,
team culture that we will challenge each other's idea, and you will, get, if you put up front an idea that isn't very good or is very out there, you're going to have to really fight for it to come in. So I think it's really important that, if you don't have that team culture, then you will have to go to that question: why is this a bad idea? But if the team knows they're allowed to challenge and they're not going to be scrutinized for it, then I don't think you need that turn.
Yeah, and
Does that make sense?
also to add to that with leadership. So at some point, I had to relinquish. Siki came over, took over as game designer, so he's been taking over a lot of that. I can't always, as CEO and co-founder, being to impose the way I thought this would go. You also need to give everybody in the organization the liberty to go in the direction. If you don't trust them to do it in any way, why do you have them there? So, sometimes I will check in to make sure that what we're doing is feasible and timelines and stuff like that. But you need to give them also their freedom of expression, just like with the artists. But you also need that in the game design. You need that for the programmers that want to refactor their things or make it prettier or more readable. That's what coders often like to do. So there are some aspects like that. And often, coders will also come with improvements that they want to do, and just give them that one day from time to time to add whatever they want. And that also gives them ownership. And I think by doing so, and again, not having this 100% fixed mindset about what you want from your product, but just what is the end result, I think that really opens up the floodgates for innovation.
I want to go back, Nick. We've touched upon that multiple times throughout the conversation about you having a diverse team with different backgrounds. People with strong opinions. How do you survive as a team? So how do you make it work? What's your recipe?
I think we do emphasize both that, like, we as leaders, we accept that sometimes we're wrong. I think we allow ourselves to show our team that we are people and we have emotions and other things going on. And therefore the team also can do that. So it's, again, just leading by example. And then just, also talking about it. And sometimes we'll, have a discussion on if you thought it was a heated discussion, then we'll have a discussion on that we weren't, angry, that we weren't, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't a heated discussion. We are good. Everybody's good. So to keep an open mind and also having, discussions on, how are you feeling at work? How are you feeling about what we're doing? How are you taking this new turn? What are you missing from how we did it, and what do you like about things that we are doing right now, in order to maintain that balance? And I think that's, or at least I think it helps, talk about it. It applies to every aspect in life. Talk about it. Don't keep it to yourself. Let's talk about it. Let's find the solution. Let's move forward together,
Often people start arguing about really minute details that in the end might not matter that much. For example, I had an argument with our developer. He really wanted a splash screen. I thought it was ugly, but he was really adamant about it. He made it prettier. And I was like, yeah, fine. Just keep the splash screen. It's not worth the effort. So I think also as a team, this something that happened gradually. He just knows that I was more set in stone. I had fixed ideas, and that's something that worked on us. And sometimes we just have to say, okay, we're going to go this route. We need to agree it. You got outvoted, or, we're going to go for this direction. It doesn't mean that we're not going to revert to something else. We emphasize to keep an open mind so that we see where it goes, because you start on a journey and you don't know where it's going to end. There are sometimes we have to backtrack. Sometimes we end up with the original ideas that somebody else had. I think if you've been part of the organization and you've seen these changes happen over and over again, I don't think you get as attached to your ideas. Sometimes we just keep them in the backlog, or we know it's there. So it doesn't become make or break.
It's also, when you're talking about ideas, we're always talking about the positive and the negative about that idea. So even if you had the idea that it wasn't picked, you still got some compliments on it. I like what you were thinking about. Like, I hear that this is the thought that went into your idea, but I think we can get that thought better by doing it like this. So you're still taking the thought from the idea into the idea that we go with. So I think that is something that's very important, not to just say like your ideas is bad because of, A, B, C, D, but also to say like, hey, I love like this part of your idea and love A, B, C, D of your idea, but I think this idea is better because of A, B, C, D, and it's going to give us this better result. And we always, like everything we do, we always focus on the result. What is it going to give us? And that often now, for example, when we're like deciding on, are we going to do this or that? It's okay. At the end of the day, what is going to, make our clientele happier? What is going to make our, clients very, love our product more? Is it going to really be a make or break for the client?
Sometimes we have very tough decisions. Sometimes we have to focus on features that are very important to drive revenue, and we know that our current clients want something else. So there are often these conflicts within us as co-founders. So Iris does the books with the educational material, and we've been behind schedule with fourth grade content, but if we would have prioritized that, we might not be here as an organization. So that also, we know it sucks. Sometimes we're in a bad mood over it. And sometimes it's something else. Adrian, he wants a different flow to be able to invite teachers to be able to test it more. And, our flow to send out, the way we send our books and our processes behind the scenes. I'm like, it's just going to have to wait. It's not make or break. It's a headache, but we're going to get there in the end. So,
and that's
really,
when we talked about, we talked about this, at the end of the day, even though they're not happy right now, they are going to be happier because we can then make the fifth book, because otherwise we wouldn't,
Yeah. So I think it's this balance, because we don't use very strong language, and usually all of these ideas that we have, they usually are mashed, and we get like a middle ground that kind of incorporates all of the thoughts behind the ideas. So I think that was Iris what I was trying to tell. We all have different ways of visualizing things, and I think what we've done well is we kind of usually end up with something that's really great, even though, it was nothing at all what we expected. And one of the things that we've also really emphasized, or I've been emphasizing a lot, is don't nitpick on the details. They're not usually what matters all that much, because you go from a design and then you go to the web and it's going to look completely different. Not completely different, but it's not going to look exactly the same. So, that those 5 to 10% that a lot of people spend so much time on doing this perfect thing, they don't matter. Just 80% of the way is usually just more than enough. And you get 80% of the result, or 95% of the result, and you can spend 80% of the time, chasing 5% of impact. Makes no sense. So I think that's something that happened gradually over time. I don't think, not a lot of this was intentional. I think on our part, and I think it's also just kind of part of the design process. When we did our first design sprint, you don't tend to use hard language. You're always focused on what does it do for my end user? What do I think they will feel, or what do I think it will bring to the table? And I think that kind of has meshed so that we're kind of an oiled up engine. We haven't been adding a lot of people to product development, so we haven't had those growth pains yet.
So what do you mean by hard language? Let's specify that in case someone...
I hate, I think this looks ugly, or we do say that sometimes, but...
It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, it's not a terrible idea.
That's not going to be a good conversation if you start the sentence with, it's a terrible idea,
You should go like, okay, why do you prefer this over something else? It's not, we might have strong feelings about it, but we want to know, what is their thought process? Why do they think this is good over something else? And that's usually the information that you want. And usually once you have that information with something else, you can find middle ground or find something that works better.
Oftentimes when people also have to explain why they think what they think, they will start having a broader opinion on it, because they realize what is the real thing that I think is important and what is just some whim that I like, oh, it's a fantastic idea, So you can fine tune out, things by really listening to why do you propose this idea? How can we incorporate that why into the idea that we got? And oftentimes, actually, and we haven't even talked about that, oftentimes we end up with the idea that nobody had.
Yeah. It's
You know,
usually
and I think
something
Like the
completely
fusion
different.
of the stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And that's generally the best results. It's when nobody won. Because if somebody won, somebody lost. So it's the balance of really getting that why through.
Yeah. I'll just give a good example of like nitpicking. We had a bar that we want to have stuck on the top or the bottom. We argued over it for 5 minutes and then we're like, hey, we'll just try both. Who cares? And if it's hard to program, we'll just pick one over the other. Period.
Do you have perfectionism in anything, or is it like 80% everywhere?
I was an absolute perfectionist. A lot of the criticism about being too hard and overriding ideas, I did a lot of that in the beginning. A lot of the work was also on my end as well. And some of the time it was also, Edith was not from a technical background. She wanted to change something a little bit, not realizing that, changing it a little bit just might not work at all. It's like 10 hours of work for something that doesn't matter. And I think that maturity for everyone to know, kind of starting to understand programmatic thinking, how things are developed, and at the same time, picking your battles, like moving a button around isn't important. But yeah, we do have a lot of perfectionism, which has been, I think, more or less cast out the window over these last few years. Just fail fast and iterate fast. So what we've focused on now is doing small improvements, or, even if we're doing something big, breaking into smaller parts that we can do, just dial out very quickly and try out our thesis quite quickly. And that usually is a better end result. You don't have something really big that's going to break all over. It's just done in small steps.
It might be a bit of a discussion based on what we've already discussed, but why is speed so important?
I mean, our clients, we have a demand list that's huge. And just to be, at the end of the day, we want the best impact possible. We want the best experience possible for our schools, and they have different needs. We have, schools that have different curriculums, different focuses on educational content, and just to be able to better service them. Speed is important just for us to also be competitive with other companies, but also provide them with whatever they might need. Sometimes they need new educational content. We want the kids to really enjoy the game and want to go further, because some of them played a lot and they finish it quite fast. So we need to keep up with that content as well. But when I mean speed is what a lot of organizations will do is that, hey, we're going to work on this big feature for 3 months and then they're going to scrap it, or it's just not going to work. It's going to break for the next 6 months. So when I mean speed is smaller things, it's easier to do. You can do it fast, kind of go from there.
And I think it's also like for our clientele. They know, like, if you're iterating and they see the product moving forward, a small thing that bothers them with the product won't bother them as much, because they know that it's gonna change, because they're seeing the change coming. And I think that's very important as well, because when you launch a very big change as well, some types of people will hate it at the get-go simply because it's a huge change and they don't know how to operate it. So doing these small things also helps the client to not feel overwhelmed with the changes that you're making, overwhelmed with the new feature, but to actually feel like it sort of came in steps. So it wasn't like, oh my God, I need to learn again. I don't remember if you remember this phase of when Facebook was changing everything. And you could never find anything, you were trying to operate the thing and it will just be gone the next day. That is a difficult thing for anybody. And for us, we know that we have clients who are busy. Teachers have the most challenging, work schedule that I've seen, task lists that they're supposed to be able to do, that we know their time is limited. We know that the product needs to work and it needs to be easy. So just implement in small steps, change the changes in small steps, and always make them sort of in line with what you've been doing before, because it also helps you. You don't need to re-implement everybody, because that's costs a lot. both in time and in money. So it's really, I think it's better for everybody, both for the team and for the people.
And the reason why speed is important, sometimes we had one school and we didn't have a multi-delete feature in the early days. We were mostly with special education in the first years. And we had the first few schools in that came with hundreds of students. And then came spring and they're like, yeah, I need to delete 300 accounts. There was a person that did that manually. I was like, oh no, that's not going to work. So I was like, hey, this needs to take forefront. We need to be done with this in 2 days.
Yesterday.
So yesterday, basically. So, we just, something that we blanked on, it happens. And we just did it right away. So just being able to add these minor improvements, and we have a long list of these sorts of things that could be implemented. So it's about finding the balance between how much value does it add and how much time it's going to take.
Also, is this a thing that will make people want to leave your platform?
Because you're tapping into so many good points here that the speed actually helps both you as the company who are developing the product or service and your users. As you said, keeping people on journey without overwhelming them. I mean, who wants to be overwhelmed? And we are overwhelmed. Now society is designed to overwhelm us. So if you manage to create a product and the journey with that product or service that actually keeps people at peace and feeling like they are in control of things, you'll have customers forever.
That's the thing. Acquiring customers is the most expensive thing to do as a company. Salespeople wise, advertising, marketing, doesn't matter what you're going to do. Acquiring clients is hard, especially in this world. We move so fast. There's so many products. There's so many things to do. Keep them. Honestly, priority number one, keep them, because then you don't have to acquire as many as fast. You can, of course, you need to always increase your numbers, but if the minus isn't big, then the plus is even bigger. It's a math game.
Lifetime value is king. And I think just with that, I mean, our product was kind of rough in the early days. I think Sam Altman put it quite well. Nobody wants to remember how bad things were in the early days. Even for us, it was just 3 years ago. Edith just showed me a picture the other day and I was like, oh, wow, I forgot it looked that bad. And just to be able to show these small incremental improvements. So what often happens, especially in education, companies, kind of surface and then die, specifically in Iceland, but also in the Nordics. And just for them to see, okay, there's more stuff coming. This company is alive. There's going to be progress, because the amount of things they want from us is kind of crazy. So just for us to be able to show them and tell them also what we're working on, and so that our clients know what's coming next, what are the features, and sometimes being able to develop it overnight, that's important. So they feel also valued as customers, and those customers will, that multi-delete feature that I created, that person gives us a call every single time she has a good idea. Half of the time, it's a fantastic idea.
So many golden nuggets here. I know we're over time already, guys. Are you okay with one more topic?
Yeah.
Amazing. So I wanted to discuss, you mentioned, Matthew, at some point that when you decided to leave Sweden because of the changes in the political environment and so on, that luckily you had the investors and the board members who supported the decision. So I want to tap into the discussion of investors, choosing your investors, choosing the route to go, what kind of money to get into your company, when do you need it, when you don't need it, and how do you build those relationships once you have them?
So we have a very different view on VC investment. I think it comes from the fact that we're in edtech, and edtech it's a red line sector for almost all of the VCs in Iceland. We have Nýsköpunarráðuneytisins, or the New Business Venture Fund, which is a government-run fund that invested in us. It was fantastic. Wouldn't be here. I don't know where we'd be without them today. But they do take risks into sectors that some of the other funds don't.
So just to be clear, why is the edtech something that Icelandic investors are not really interested in?
Very simple. As Iris mentioned earlier, there's a government-led monopoly. You can't sell to schools in Iceland. It's also a very nuanced environment. There aren't many success stories, maybe specifically in the Nordics, but at the same time, the success stories aren't visible. So what most
And
people don't.
I think it's very important to note here, the government product monopoly has created that we don't really have ad tech markets. The ad tech market, like globally, is equally as big as the computer game market, So it isn't, this is something that is huge everywhere else, but because it isn't a normal thing, it isn't a lot of companies in the area in Iceland. Of course, the VC investors are not going to know the numbers behind that market. So we had to also just prove and talk about that it is a market, and it led us to actually fund Icelandic AdTech industry, which is like a association, to just say, hey, in all other countries, this is a market. This is something that the schools should have. This is something that we should be leading on. But the VCs, of course, maybe don't want to take a risk into something that they were just learning about.
Mm. Yeah, and also an interesting thing is, so the K-12 sector, this is so kindergarten to 12th grade, it's called K-12. And it's one of those sectors that is the most vibrant in the world. And most people don't know that. In order to be on the radar, and in order to be able to make it in K-12, so you're not going to build a unicorn. And I think this is also something that's happening in VCs. I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of unicorns in the next few years. And I think we'll see a lot of successful exits. I don't think that will change or has changed. But what we're seeing specifically in K-12, the exits that you're looking at, there aren't going to be over $1 billion. They're going to be in the $200, $300 million range. Those will be successful exits. So kind of the old idea of raising huge capital and making capital inefficient companies is changing. And in our sector as well, when you look at the number of possible acquirers in K-12, I don't think there are many fields that have as many. K-12, Macro Stride, Pearson, Hugh Mifflin. You could keep on going. The list is very long. And these guys, these are huge operations. They have appetite for acquisitions. But in the sense, they're always very strategic, but they also invest in companies that they think have huge potential. So all of a sudden you have a much broader ecosystem than we have back at home. We have a couple of VC funds. They tend to have similar emphasis. They're very tech focused because that's where we've seen success. Some of them have games.
And this is something I think is very important to talk about because, startup ecosystem in Iceland is very young. So we have, the option of taking a business loan, or the option of going the VC route, or the option of growing a company like client and client type. In other countries, we have so many different funding ways, ways to raise money. It isn't just from VCs or from the bank. It's also from like family funds, from different types of, like social VC funds who actually are like social first,
Impact
not
funds.
just social, impact funds, right? So it is like these different types of funds that we aren't talking about. And I think it's very important that we talk about this because, what is success? Success is always something that you define. And the VC route, the VC model means that, success isn't success unless you're almost a unicorn, But however, like for family offices, for example, doing a 10x is something that's fantastic. I gained a lot more money from that as a family fund than putting my money in the bank. So it is something that we need to talk about as well. Like, what is my business model fit for, and how do I also as a person want to grow my company? Because a lot of the time we aren't talking about in Iceland as well is founders getting too tired, because like going the VC route, you're never good enough oftentimes because you have to become a unicorn, right? So it is something that you also need to decide. And I think it's very important that we raise this discussion, is that what route do I want to take as a founder, and what route is right for my business, and picking an investor for that, because otherwise you're going to be running for something that isn't your heart and soul. It is something that somebody else told you to do, and you're never going to be as good of a founder and as driven if you're not heart and soul all the way.
And
One
when
thing to
I'll
add,
just give a quick comment. One of the previous guests of mine, August, was talking about that. Okay, if you get an investor who guides you away from your, as you said, heart and soul eaters, then you just have another employer. And if you're going the employment route, then maybe you just as well go and actually get a job because you have more stability and less pressure. So I think it's important to have that mindset as well. Like, okay, investors should keep me aligned to my purpose. Why did I start this in the first place? And if they get me way away from that, then quite often it's not really worth all the trade-offs that are coming with that.
I think the best piece of advice we got, I don't remember who gave it to me. We've met a lot of people along the way that have helped us out. When we were starting to look at raising capital, somebody told me, I'm not sure they meant it as a joke, but they told me that getting rid of somebody off your cap table is harder than getting a divorce. So choose wisely. So usually you're going to be stuck with that person until your company either dies or exits, or that organization if it's a VC fund. So be very reminiscent of how you align, and are these people that you would trust to back you? Often when you start out with investors, you need to get to know each other. That's why traditional investments don't happen overnight. You need to know these people at least for 6 to 9 months, and that's kind of usually it's a lot longer than that. They say 6 to 9 months. That might happen in the US, but that's again probably relationship based. Somebody made an intro that already had known the company for a long time, but in Iceland you need to know them a lot longer than that. I would say there might be exceptions to that rule, but it goes again to that alignment. And as Iris mentioned, I think what we've overemphasized in Iceland is, what is startup success? We're all, we're trying to fit all of ourselves into like this unicorn machine. We know we're never going to be, and maybe not never, we are unlikely to be a unicorn, but we are eyeing a $300-400 million exit in the next 4 to 5 years.
And this is also something that you need to tell in your story when you're approaching investors. You need to, be open about, like, this is the business case. This is how we're going to grow. This is our plan in order for them to be happy with what you're delivering,
And one thing to add to that is that, your valuations need to reflect that end exit. And that is, I don't think ever talked about. You can't have a seed round at, that's worth 10, you raise 10 million seed, let's say at a 20%, for 20% of capital, that means your valuation is at 50 million. You might go for a Series A at some point. Then all of a sudden your valuation is at 400 million. At what point do your investors get a healthy exit? What is the appetite of your acquirers? For us, we've raised in such a way that we could have an acquisition that's on the lower end, that's still going to be a hefty good exit for everybody. So we've been very reminiscent about, and we've taken a lot of thought into, we haven't brought on a lot of product people. We've kept that within our team. That's what we've always been good at. We've gotten salespeople here and there, but we've remained with very low costs. I mean, we're almost break even. So I think focusing on creating a healthy company that can grow quite organically. We will need more. We'll probably raise a Series A, although we haven't even publicized that we raised the seed round yet. But
you heard it first, it's yours.
There we go.
But we have when we go for a Series A, we know there are certain thresholds we can't go. We can't go raise a $10 million round because that won't be necessarily a good exit for our investors. So we would be eyeing a 4 to 5 million round, and we will do a Series B. We might do some bridge capital in between, but not more than that. And that's not talked about. You also need to know who are your acquirers and what is the appetite.
How to make yourself
this for this month, for this year. You need to know the whole end. You need to look at the end before you start. Am I also, like, if you go the VC round, you also have to exit. So are you building a company that you see is going to be a family company, you want to pass it on to your children? Or are you building a company that you're going to say goodbye to at a point because that's how that route works. So you also need to be comfortable with building a product because being a founder and building a product is sort of like having a baby. You really you're putting your heart and soul again into this. So you need to also know, and you need to, look at the whole route. What is the end point for this? And you need to be okay with it, because otherwise you're going to end up regretting stuff. So it's really, really important to look at the end. Why am I doing this for? What do I want to build? For whom and how, before you start, because otherwise you're going to be stuck in a path that you can't sway off,
And you're bringing up so many important points here, because I think that conversation is not had at all right now. And it has to happen, because so many founders are hurting themselves, their businesses, and wasting the money of the investors and hurting the whole ecosystem because of all these stories that are just failing the narrative of the wrong startup success and startup failure. That it's important to understand, as you said, you start with the end in mind. Where are you going? And then reverse engineer from that. Like, what does it mean for me right now? What money do I really need? What kind of money does it have to be? Can it be a government grant instead of going the VC fund or going to angel investors? Because it's too early to give away equity to anyone right now, and so on and so forth. And also, what you're talking about, that the healthy exits of $200, $300 million, it's amazing. And it's life-changing money for everyone involved if you have built it in a healthy, intentional way. And think about it, like take your whole team who have equity, and think that you're changing the lives of them and their families with that exit. And yes, you might not make it to, I don't know, Crunchbase or TechCrunch news with like, well, new unicorn, but is that really what you're starting the business for?
Right. And that's also so important, because that, like, knowing like what's success for you, and really following that route, because it is, if you're doing it because you want to be, the next Airbnb or the next Spotify or whatever, then pick a field where you can do it in, but I think everybody who is in education, you're doing it because you want to change the way to learn. Of course, it has to be worth your time. It is, we have families and we have, things to do as well. But I think, for us, it was always at the beginning. We are a research-based company. We want to change. We want to utilize these results. We want to see kids loving learning math, because math is the most important foundation that you will build for a child. So a successful exit for us is that the people who came in with us and joined us on this journey, our investors who joined us and believed in that goal, we are all going to, we all need to be happy at the end. But that is success for us. It isn't being the next Airbnb. If it happens on the way, fantastic, but it isn't the goal. And I think it's very important that we, look at the route and we talk about that, set yourself a healthy goal that you want to achieve, know what you want to achieve. And that's the hardest question. What do you want,
Oh, yeah. I'm sitting with that, I'm really finding this week as we speak, what is freedom for me? Because in my coaching session, I understood that freedom that I've created in my business is not the freedom I need anymore. But it has served me. It gave me freedom that I needed when I had a small baby. But right now, and with this journey of having those insights, the self-awareness and the reflection, time for that and energy for that is so important, because our needs change. And again, being quick with those changes, or like adapting to those changes and understanding them and seeing where is journey taking you is important, and both for us personally, but also as a business, for business as a whole.
And that's, again, something that I think we need to talk about in the startup world. And again, like talking about like founder burnout and stuff like that. If you aren't aligned with the route you're taking, if you feel like you're sort of trapped in a corner, you're not going to do as good of a job. You're less likely to actually manage to become that unicorn that you dreamt of becoming, So it is also so important for founders to know who they are, to to nourish themselves as people, if this is we trying to nourish our team and nourish our employees. But we also need to know like who we are and where we're going. And I think it's important that we maintain a healthy conversation about that, that yes, we want to win this game and we want to go this route. But if it costs me my sanity and my family and my, body, maybe it wasn't worth it. So I think it's also like, let's look at the facts. Let's take the good things and the why we went into this and keep that as a focus point. Keep that as the guiding light, because things are going to get rough. Like Mathieu sometimes talk about it. Any really successful business had at least 2 to 3 or 4 death experiences. When you found a company, you're going to have dark days, like very dark, and you need to have that guiding light in front of you, and you need to see that very clear, I think, in order to get through that.
I think also one of the things that you need to also really heed especially as a founder, you really don't know where this journey is going to take you. I mean, we joke about it. Rest of our team, we can't really plan very much ahead. We don't know where we're going to be in a month from now. We might be starting our pilot in India. We know we'll probably be in Brazil sometime in August. So you don't really know where this experience is going to take you. And I think a lot of people happen to get over fixed in where they want to go. They have this one fixed idea of success, they want to go to the US or make it there. It doesn't really, you have to figure that out for yourself and keep an open mind where that might go. And I think you also need to really figure out what you want to do, especially with your budgets and planning. I think a lot of companies overspend, and that's why we have these huge budgets, and why these companies are raising huge cash amounts. Stay small, stay nimble, and bringing on a lot of people isn't always the answer to your problems. It's just going to cause new ones. I mean, I think the best example of this is, I don't remember the CEO of Netflix. So they had to do cuts in the organization a while back, and they went from 160 to 80. And this was in the early day of Netflix. They got more stuff done as 80 people. And we also knew this as an organization. Now, when we were raising capital, all of our investors said, they asked us like, okay, what you can do with the capital? I said, it will go into founder salary and sales. That's it. And they're like, okay, so you're not going to be bringing more product. I was like, no, we don't have the sales to be able to put more money into product. We can do that still as our core founding team. We have that knowledge and we'll still be doing that, but we're not going to be investing more in that until we have the cash or the revenue to support it. And I think too many organizations go the premium route, or, don't really know how they're going to sell the product that might have worked before when there was more blue oceans. I think, and that's going to disappear. And we've been very hard on this. We've sold our product from the beginning. We do pilots. Pilots are a part of our game. I mean, we test out the thesis, we measure the impact, we make sure everybody's happy, and then we go for a transaction. But we've had, so the reason why our investors came on board again, other than that, they said we should be dead 3 times over, because we don't spend that much. We keep a very tight lid on how we spend our money, is that we're very mature in the way that we've been doing business for the past 3 years, and we have had good revenue for the last 3 years. That's why we managed to keep, elongating that runway and finding, break even is okay. Just always be reminiscent of, don't lose yourself. And, what is that one feature going to change? It's not going to be make or break at the end of the day.
Also, I think all the, like, as founders and as, when you bring on employees, they need to be comfortable with knowing that they're not working for a big organization. There is not going to be a suit yoga class in our organization. There is not going to be, a huge festival, or, I don't know how you'd say Gisladottir. There's not going to be a huge staff reunion every 3 months. There's not going to be a grand trip to, Tenerife, all the team together. until we hit this budget or this, income. So it is really important that you realize as well, as much as you need to have a healthy human resource management, that you need to keep your employees happy. You need to know what makes them happy. And it isn't always the same things as you would do as a bank or you would do as a huge organization. And I think it's very important that to keep that focus and to know that your employees are good with that. That these things don't just come, they will come when we reach this success or this, benchmark.
For example, we know now that we will be overworked in the product development department and the implementation department until we have the revenue to support it and bring more people on. And we're all aware of it. It's going to be a hard time for the next couple of months. We're going to have increased workload. But until we get to that point, that's just the way it's going to be. Everybody knows, everybody's on the same line, and we just make sure to keep track of our mental sanity in between.
And talk about.
I think talking is a big part of it. As you said, Iris, we need to set the expectation right from the get-go when we're hiring people. Because I think now there was this, it has been shifted that the employee is the one who has the power, right? You need good talent, and the companies are fighting to get that talent. And in that fight, they start promising the things that they can't really back with the facts, the resources, and so on. And then sometimes things that they think the people want, but it isn't really what the people want, because that's also, especially, and I think this applies to, when you're hiring people for IT and for these kinds of things, the big splashy, going abroad or like big splashy, going out together as a team isn't the thing that person wants. A piece of quiet in the climbing gym might be, So it is also knowing what ticks your staff, like what are they looking for? What is a good thing for them, and being able to deliver that, because often that isn't very costly. It's knowing your people and knowing why they're doing it and what makes them feel good as employees.
Flexibility, ownership, being able to make an impact. What we've seen with the people that we work with, that usually is what they're looking for. And, being part of a mission-driven organization that's reaching tens, if not hundreds of thousands of kids by the end of the year, doing something that the kids really like. I mean, we do this thing where I talked about the presentations our co-founder Siggy does with the kids. When we have a bad day, we just go to one of those, just remind.
Go together. We show up all four of us from the office. And people like, wow, you're a lot of you here. And it's because we need that boost,
Yeah, it's been a hard week, because a lot of the time when you have a big organization, you're going to be very disjointed with your clientele. You're never going to see who's using your product, or you're never going to have that communication or really experience the impact of the product. And, to go and, do that. We've done that with every single person we've brought on board, actually. So for them to experience that, to know that it's something that's having an impact, I think that speaks a lot more to new talent than any, big corporate office job, unless they just want a lot of money. And, we can't offer that, but we can offer a lot of other things, and room for growth. I mean, who would have guessed that, I would be more tolerable than I was in the early days, and more open to ideas and be a good manager. Who would have guessed? Not a lot of people, I think, but I think that comes with growth. And even, when Siggy, our co-founder, started, he had never held like a traditional office job. It was really hard for him. He didn't want to go abroad for conferences. He didn't want to go, really. And we were like, Siggy,
he's so stressed.
He was really stressed about it. Like, what I'm gonna say? They're Swedish. How is it gonna go? He was probably the best of us. Like he was having.
I know he's the first. Let's go.
Yeah. So a lot of people have kind of that open spirit, that openness to experience. I think it's something that has happened gradually, and I think that kind of applies to everyone. We're no longer like, oh shit, I need to do a presentation, or like I have a demo, I need to prepare 100%. There is no 100%. Usually you're 95%. That takes a lot less time to prepare is more than enough for people. So, I think that once that perfectionism got ironed out and we're looking for growth, not just as a company, but as individuals. I think that has really helped us. And we often talk about our responsibilities because we all have responsibilities we hate. Grant writing.
What?
And, no, like I actually enjoy it. It's good to go through that process, but it always takes more time. It's always more work than you anticipate. We're really grateful for Technical Show that they've supported us since the beginning. But that's just one example. But once you've got the grant, you need to send all of the data, and it's just a lot of things that take time. There's a lot of admin that goes and client support that's not always fun, but just that this is what you have now. In the future, this is something you'll have less responsibility over. And this is something that we talk about. It's just like we said with the hard time we're going to have for the next few months. We're going to have a lot of discussions, a lot of demos. We have a huge product launch in India with a pilot with tens of thousands of students. And we're doing that at the same time as we're doing other stuff in LATAM. But until we have the revenue to support it, we change nothing.
Yeah, but now, and I think this is something that I think a lot of people sometimes forget. We've already started to talk about what are the responsibilities you want to take on, and what are the responsibilities you want to lose in your current job. And because I think it's important to start thinking about it, because I want them to be thinking about it, the next couple of months. Because when we get to the point where we can hire, I don't want to hire into the parts that they want to grow into. I want to hire into the parts that people want to lose, because there are going to be people who would love to do that. And those are the people that I want to hire for. So I think that is also something that's very important, knowing your staff, knowing what they want to do, and allowing them to grow into the things that they're dreaming of.
It's a brilliant point, it is. Yeah.
At the same time, you want them to earn it. So, they might not have experience in it. So they, we've had that conversation with a couple of people. So, if you want to go into that place, you need to show me that you want it, because, I can't go to my investor and say, hey, I want to nominate this person if, we've been having a lot of trouble, or, things haven't been getting done, or, we forecasted wrongly, or whatever it is. Like, we forgot to add VAT to an invoice, or these are just dumb examples, but you need them to show you that they want it. And, that's also what they're growing into. That's why you would join a startup. You would get more experience, and you would be able to grow into a role that might take it a decade or two elsewhere.
I think when people, they feel the work for it and they've got it, it is better than it just comes, because you really, you feel accomplished. You feel, well, I achieved this, I didn't just get this because of something, and you laugh about it, but I really worked for this. And that's how I think you really maintain happy people.
You own the result then, really, when you worked for it. And you feel empowered with it, but also you feel the responsibility. You know what it took you to get there. And that responsibility is very important, as you said, for happiness, but also for the health of the company.
Yeah. We routinely talk also about what are the things that we could simplify, what are the things that we could improve that makes your work-life conditions better. One case, the way we're getting support requests or, orders for books and stuff. As I told Adrian, he was complaining about it, like the process isn't, we switched providers and we're kind of with two providers. I was like, we can't do it right away, but we're going to get to it so that that's going to diminish. And sometimes you give them ownership. Like, okay, is there a way you can improve this? Take ownership.
Tell me what
of that
I need to do in order to help you with that.
Yeah. And some of our best innovations have come that way. Adrian developed this. He added another provider for our postal packages. It costs less and it's less trouble and takes less of our time. He has more time to do other stuff now, the stuff that he wants to be doing.
Work smart, not hard, right?
Yes. Another myth that we need to bust, right? In the startup scene. Well, guys, this has been our conversation. I loved it. You provided so many fantastic experiences and shared so many bits of knowledge that can help. And I hope your genius leaders are still with us and really have taken in those bits. And maybe you need to re-listen to this conversation, because we touched so many different topics and something resonated with you right now. And in the different journey stage of yours, something else will start, like you will hear it as if for the first time. That's what usually happens to me with the conversations like we just had. When I listened to that, I was like, did we even discuss it? Wow, there is so much here. And it's the beauty of it. When we can cover different topics, we can share experiences with each other. And there is always someone for whom it lands the right way. Just this specific phrase, just this specific advice, or this experience that you shared. So thanks so much for being so open to share on so many topics and making it fun and light and so flowy. It's something I don't take for granted from my guests. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anna. It was
Happy
a
to be
pleasure.
here.
And to you, Genius Leaders, I want to remind you, as always, that I see you, I feel you, I love you. And I do believe that you can build a business that really aligns with your mission and aligns with what you want to provide as the value to the world, but also who you want to become. As Mathieu said, this is a huge development journey personally as well. And you can build it on your terms. Don't go with the narratives that are dominating the industries right now, whatever industry you are in. Find your way, stay aligned to your core, but also use the data. So find that balance between the feelings and the data for yourself, and go do it. Love you, and talk to you next week.